Hey everybody, welcome to Ask Dr. Testosterone, starring Dr. George Touliatos, brought to you by his book, Bodybuilding, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. You can get that on his website, gtool.com, that's gtoul.com, as well as on amazon.com. Dr. Touliatos is also a monthly contributor to Muscular Development magazines, has been a contributor to other books and magazines like William Llewellyn's Anabolics. Please welcome all the way from Athens, Greece, Dr. George Touliatos. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Ron. Thank you. It was the first time that I published an interview and an article on MD Online, MD.com. Yep. It was about the bulking cycle. And I hope the response was well good. I mean, people like it and the feedback. And I'm going to send you now. Actually, I have mailed you the cutting cycle, yes.
These are not just bulking and cutting cycles. These are the ones that, you know, the pros. This is what the pros use.
Well,
typical drugs and amounts.
Yeah, what I analyze in the text is how the drugs transition from 1 week to the 4 weeks to the other, you know, in order people to understand what we use in the first place, then what also the auxiliary drugs like thyroids or CNS stimulants or some other anti-prolactin or anti-estrogenic drugs. You know, it's not just about steroids.
Right.
Also, growth hormone, the insulin, the IGF-1, so everything comes into play. And you have to know how to use them, because otherwise it's not useless, it's pointless, you know, and you may have side effects without results.
Yeah, and it'd be very expensive to use all those drugs too. That's why your average local guy should not be using everything the pros use, contrary to what they might think. Okay,
the budget of the steroids is almost as much as the budget of the growth hormone itself, you know. So it's two budgets, a lot different.
Oh yeah, growth. I never had a problem with steroid budget.
All the drugs and growth hormone are, you know, equally amount.
Oh, growth hormone is ridiculously priced.
Yes.
I wish somebody would come out with a very cheap, real generic version of it that was legal. Then I'd be a very happy little clam. But anyway, until then, we have 12 questions. You're really spoiling these viewers, Doctor. 12? Okay, let's put a cap. This is no more than 12. That's a lot of questions, guys.
I know yes.
You're very, very generous with your time and information. So let's get started. Number one, it would be interesting if you could discuss, are there any ways of boosting injectable T into DHT conversion, increasing concentration of 5-alpha reductase in the body through diet or supplements or even drugs? Is such a thing even possible?
Yes. So testosterone is a prohormone to DHT, and it's reduced by the enzyme 5-alpha reductase. Now, this happens when testosterone is increased in the body under endogenous, you know, production. So, for instance, exercise, good night's sleep, supplementations like D-aspartic acid, maca or fenugreek or ZMA at night, or tribulus terrestris, you know. Also, lactate production during exercise, so anaerobic by high intensity and short intervals of 30 seconds. Make sure you don't smoke marijuana. You don't drink alcohol because both they aromatize. You don't use painkillers as codeine, you know, spironolactone, cimetidine or ranitidine for the gastric ulcer, and also cortisone in injectable form.
Wow.
And SSRIs, you know, and antipsychotic drugs, because they elevate prolactin, and prolactin gives you anorgasmia, and it lowers actually libido. But how to increase DHT itself? Now, there is a great guy in Belgium. I consider him as the best anti-aging doctor in the world. Is Dr. Thierry Hertog from Brussels, who has written a handbook of hormones. It costs about $500. It's about 1,000 pages.
Wow.
So I had the chance of reading it a little bit, and at a certain point where it has a column of different agents and how to increase DHT. DHT is increased by eating red meat. So the action of testosterone to DHT is elevated by red meat. Also, creatine monohydrate has the same results. So my belief is that red meat, of course, contains creatine. Okay, this is why red meat in Greek it's called kreas. Kreas comes from the word creatine. So having more creatine will give you better anaerobic production during the workout that eventually will elevate testosterone that will be reduced afterwards in DHT. So there is a connection between red meat, creatine, and DHT production, you know?
Well, so most bodybuilders are probably doing that anyway. Most of them, they eat red meat and they take creatine as a supplement in some form.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
But most of course, bodybuilders use testosterone so that it will be reduced to DHT anyway, you know?
Yeah.
So when you get the gear, you don't worry about DHT because it's already metabolized from testosterone that you inject.
Right.
So yes, taking creatine monohydrate, because monohydrate has the benefit of this hypovolemic state in the muscle cell. It also elevates ATP production, but also eating red meat will eventually lead to higher DHT. Now, masturbation allegedly will give you, breaking out in teenagers when they masturbate a lot. They, during puberty, you just, you start to realize how to use your genitalia before going with a woman. So they start to experience with masturbation, and there is an alleged speculation that masturbation will lead you to breaking out acne, either masturbation or ejaculation. But this is explained through the endogenous testosterone production that will be also reduced to DHT. So having frequent ejaculations, either by sex or masturbation, will elevate testosterone and will be reduced also to DHT, you know. And acne, of course, is DHT related.
Oh, okay. So to recap, guys, red meat, creatine, masturbation, and you're good. Okay. All right, next one, doctor. I want to know if testosterone binds to SHBG. If testosterone binds to SHBG, what eventually happens to the testosterone? From what I understand, if testosterone binds to albumin, the testosterone can free itself and become free or used by the body.
Yes, so we have the total testosterone, which is almost 98% bound to the testosterone itself. It's bound 98% to this protein carrier that is made in the liver, the sex hormone binding globulin. Now, the word globulin means it's a protein, okay? So this is a protein carrier, literally, that binds to testosterone and carries within the bloodstream, okay? Only 2% of the total testosterone is not bound to the SHBG carrier, and it's called the free testosterone. But generally in the body, we have two kinds of testosterone, the bound and the unbound. The bound is with the SHBG carrier, and the unbound also, it's along with the albumin. So the unbound form is free testosterone and albumin. But we have to measure the free testosterone, that is the one that bioavailable, the active one, the one that matters, because I have seen in a blood work a total T of 700 and a free T below 50% and no sex drive. And this is due to the height or the elevated SHBG due to different reasons. So the main modulator, the main regulator in the sex drive and in TRT, and how to get most out of it in libido, in self-esteem, in cognitive function, in strength, in everything, is the free testosterone and the reverse proportional related to the SHBG, okay? One goes up, the other goes down. And these are, so by giving a total T does not tell the whole story. You have to, what lies beneath, that is a matter of SHBG, also prolactin plays a role, also estradiol plays a role, and of course, the free testosterone tells the truth, and it's 3 times more expensive to measure free testosterone than total T, yes.
Okay. That explains the extra charges I get on my blood work every year. Okay. Hey, Ron, I'd like to ask the doc if he has ever used GW501516. Also, what does he think of this PED? I'd like to use it for cycling and running. I've never heard of this.
This is not a SARM. However, this is not a peptide. It's a compound that it belongs to a certain type of drugs, which is an agonist. But what it does is transforming the slow twitch red muscle, the fast twitch white muscle fibers that are explosive, anaerobic, for instance, weightlifting, sprinting, okay, to endurance, slow twitch, red muscle fiber. So in a way, it can take you from a sprinter or a bodybuilder to an endurance athlete like a marathon. What? Yes, you may use this drug in order to have aerobic performance. For instance, go to play tennis or to go for cycling, go for a 10-kilometer run. And mainly it utilizes the free fatty acids, but it keeps the glycogen in muscle stores not to be used. So it transits the fuel that you're using, but that also reflects to endurance, because we know that fat is burned, is oxidized under prolonged and low pace activity. For instance, walking or jogging, but low pace, 60 to 70%.
Yeah.
And unlike the anaerobic that requires 80 to 90 or to 100%, anaerobic oxidation of glucose and glycogen. So another more important thing to use GW or cardiorin is to elevate HDL. And it has been promising, it has been shown to rats that it elevates over 10 or 15% the HDL. However, they gave a tremendous amount of cardiorin to a rat related to its body mass index, because the rat is about 100 grams. So they gave him a human dose and he developed cancer.
Oof.
So yes, this is it was not proportional, the dose to the body mass index of the rat. So it matters how much you give of it. But the promising thing is that HDL elevates. Actually, an FBB Pro that I have been consulting, he uses it, and his HDL is over 40. And so you can use it for bodybuilding, but mainly to develop strength, resistance in strength. So, for instance, when you bench press 200 pounds, how many times you're going to press this bench press? 20, 25, 30. So this develops the resistance in strength, and this is under powerlifting games, So it's just not about maximum strength, but also how many times you're gonna lift a certain weight, and you develop a resistance and a tolerance in lactate also.
So is this drug mainly used by endurance athletes?
Yeah, by endurance athletes, but they want to transition into to endurance, but also bodybuilder can use it in order to switch a little bit his training and try to lift for high repetitions the same body weight, so to develop a resistance in strength. Yes.
Endurance, some more endurance. Okay.
Yes, precisely. Yes, but also for HDL, for health management.
Okay. Next one is all about Equipoise. Can you please discuss Equipoise more in depth? Proper doses for mass gain and/or cutting cycles. EQ effects on the kidneys. EQ seemed to burn fat like Tren at high doses, around 800 to 1,000 milligrams for this person. Thank you.
So
mass gain and cutting. Yeah, go ahead.
Equipoise is a veterinary drug made for cattle. And actually, according to anabolic William Llewellyn, its anabolic index is lower than DECA. DECA is about 130. So Equipoise is about 100, same as testosterone. Another important thing is that it has lower androgenicity than testosterone. That means that it does not burn as effective adipose tissue as testosterone, because the fat burning process, the video oxidation of adipose tissue, is the result of androgenicity. So, for instance, Trenbolone is the best in fat burning, halo testing, because they're extremely androgenic. I'm sorry.
Right.
Okay. So I doubt if Equipoise itself is a fat burning drug, but this guy abused it up to 1 gram a week. This is tremendous. And consider that usually the concentration of the Equipoise is only 50 milligrams per ml. So you need almost 10 ml in one shot to get half a gram of it. So it's really, it's not dense. So you need more of mLs, more of the oily solution in order to get the compound.
Yeah.
A fair enough dose would be over half a gram, over 500 milligrams, which is approximately what DECA is also used, between 400 and 600. It's less aromatized than DECA. Of course, it does not lead to prolactinemia like DECA. It's a testosterone derivative, and it gives you dry gains, but less watery than DECA itself, because DECA also stimulates aldosterone for the joints, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And Equipoise, because it has a very slow time release of anthacylonate ester, this resembles the DECA ester, which is anthacylonate. So after you discontinue it, after you stop using it, it keeps also running into the system. So after the 4 weeks, after the 1 month, you're gonna still experience some effects out of it. Okay, it would be dry and less watery, less puffy than Deca.
Now, I don't know if you saw the last show I did with Dr. O'Connor, but I like to shock him with cycles, with how much people use. And there's a guy at my gym who's, as part of his off-season cycle, he's only 190 pounds, so he's not even a 200-pound guy, not a big dude. In addition to Test and Deca, he was doing like 200 milligrams of Test and Deca every other day, and he's doing 800 milligrams of Equipoise, 800 milligrams every other day.
Yeah, I can understand this frequency.
Wow.
And also why to use Deca along with Equipoise in the same, same time.
I'm shocked about that. That's 8, 16, that's 2,400 milligrams of Equipoise a week.
Usually the androgen and the anabolic should be at least 1-to-1. In this case, it's not one.
He was doing 1,000. It's 1,000 milligrams of Test a week. So yeah, he's doing 2.5 times, almost 2.5 times more Equipoise. And then there was Deca in there too, I believe. I'd have to go back.
Then sex drive is gonna suck, because when you use, in particular, Deca and 19 or derivatives, also trend, you need to have double of the androgen.
Right.
But anyway, start using Equipoise after you finish Deca. I mean, what's the point of using everything? You know, it's crazy.
It is. Well,
you
people
have
are
to
crazy.
6 pounds, you know, huh?
People are crazy. I mean, they don't do a lot of research.
They
like
experiment with themselves like they are rats, you know.
Well, next up. Okay, this guy says, I'm 36. I've been on and off cycle for almost 10 years. And even before starting AAS, my T levels were in the lowest normal range. Now I've been off for 5 months without PCT. And a month ago, I clearly felt the hypogonadism symptoms. So I did lab work, and the results were total T of 86 nanograms over deciliter per deciliter, free test of almost 3 picograms per milliliter, estradiol of 14, and also LH and FSH in the low normal range. For the past month, I've injected 1,500 IU HCG every other day, and now the lab results are total test of 141, free test of 5.25, and estradiol of 17. But LH and FSH have fallen way below normal. I feel way better with good libido and sex drive, although it seems ridiculous. I have gained back some few pounds of muscle. Of course, I had stopped training till the start of the HCG protocol. As I want to see how far I can go without introducing TRT, what do you think would be the next step? Continuing HCG, starting Clomid instead of HCG, or taking both together? And second, does the HCG protocol lead to drop in LH and FSH as I experienced?
Yes. So this is a classic case of anabolic steroid-induced hypogonadism, as Connor describes on Anabolic's book.
Yeah.
And we have the withdrawal symptom of suppression of hypothalamic pituitary testicular axis. Now, this guy follows, obviously, an HCG monotherapy using moderate amounts every 3 days, for instance, so 3 times a week. What you expect from this is elevation of total and free testosterone, of estradiol also, but a suppression of LH and FSH, because HCG itself will shut off gonadotropins because it's a synthetic gonadotropin releasing hormone. So it's antagonistic. Now, so it's reasonable to have lower LH and FSH after the stop of using. Actually, I had today and on Friday similar case studies in my office. So what I suggest you now to do is to stop using HCG and transition to SERMs, clomiphene citrate, low dose, 25 milligrams, for instance, half a pill, and low dose of tamoxifen citrate. That will keep kickstarting the hypothalamus and the pituitary. You know, this is what the SERMs do by lowering estradiol. And of course, they are selectively estrogen modulators. That means they occupy the estrogenic receptors. And actually, this will kind of elevate SHBG. So you don't like this. So we can introduce a little bit of proviron afterwards in order to lower the SHBG after the stop of the SERMs. And but if you use if we use proviron alongside with the SERMs, we're going to expect a further elevation in FSH, because this is what proviron does. It matures more the sperm production, but it's slightly suppressive to LH. But anyway, this guy has to stop using HG. I believe that his estradiol is a bit elevated now, so he has to watch out because too much of estrogens will shut off the will suppress the endogenous testosterone production. And he should also do the classic lifestyle. So sleep 11 to 7, do an aerobic lifting, small intervals of 30 minutes. Do not overtrain over 30 minutes. Do use D-aspartic acid, ZMA, maca, and vitamin D3 is also very promising during hypogonadic state that elevates hormones. And just wait, because time is a healer and you need time. PCT protocol is not just pressing buttons and expecting everything to elevate at once. Time is a healer and you need Mother Nature to start healing yourself.
Okay. Next one is, I have been misdiagnosed my whole life. I suffer from cluster headaches, quite rare. So I've been abusing opioids, all sorts of them, including oxycodone, to try and relieve myself of the pain. As I've aged and educated myself and my doctors on my condition and how to treat it, I've realized that after all the years of opioid abuse, my libido is almost non-existent. I battle to lose weight and fat around the midsection. Could the opioids have caused damage to these things and concurrently damage my testosterone levels? How do I fix this? Please help. I'm from South Africa. Do you work closely with any doctors from this country?
So absolutely yes. Opiates and codeine, for instance, that codeine, mind that codeine in the liver is metabolized to morphine.
Oh, wow.
Yes, this is why so addictive, but also so effective. Actually, morphine is synthetic morphine is injectable, but codeine is from the mouth, orally, per us. As a matter of fact, I'm using codeine now because I have this supraspinatus partially torn, yes, and I want to avoid the rupture. So, but at night I have horrible pains, so I'm using 30 milligrams of codeine in order to sleep. But codeine, if you use it natty, not along with testosterone exogenous like in TRT, you will have a suppression in the HPTA. So you have to get rid out of codeine. Paracetamol or ibuprofen is another way as a painkiller, but of course not as effective as codeine. But you have to gradually get off from codeine. So for instance, for 30 milligrams, go to 15 or 20, and then to 10, because you're gonna have the withdrawal symptom because it's addictive. Also, codeine will give you constipation, and opiates also will give you respiratory suppression. So you may develop some sleep apnea at night. And this is oxycontin, I don't know. This is what Michael Jackson took, and he stopped breathing at night,
Yeah.
The opiate, Heath Ledger also, he used opiates for pain, and he was found unconscious, no? So you shouldn't play with that drugs. And many drug addicts, take codeine and opiates in order to feel better. After they have this, they go through rehabilitation with from heroin and then to methadone or. But anyway, this guy has to stop and evaluate his LH, FSH, total testosterone, free testosterone, in order to see how the HPTA works. All right, stay out of opiates unless you start using testosterone. That it doesn't matter because you also take exogenous, and it does not affect you.
Well, I mean, somebody like this, does he probably need to go on TRT? Do you think he might have, over the years, permanently damaged?
To evaluate in first place, okay. What is his age?
Doesn't say.
If he's under 30, it's more promising. Now, if you are close to 40, it's harder to kick your HPTA because of the andropause process that we gradually develop,
Right.
Also develops on lifestyle, the things I mentioned before. If you sleep enough, if you train intensely for a short time, if you don't drink, if you don't use narcotics, everything matters.
Yeah. Okay. Now, so I guess he's in South Africa. I don't know if you can.
I have no idea, but
if he was in Greece, he'd be in a better situation. Okay, next question. Trenace. I've been using 400 milligrams Trenace, 600 milligrams Sustanon, 400 milligrams Equipoise, and 2 milligrams Arimidex for about 2 months, and I've been having low back pain. Could this be my kidneys, or is it just back pumps?
Yes, I suspect the low back pain to be also related to kidneys,
Oof.
but also aneurysm, an abdominal aorta aneurysm that also you should check out your blood pressure, because tren and so much testosterone also can elevate blood pressure. Otherwise, you can have an ultrasound for the kidneys, and a physical examination also. And you may have also an X-ray for the kidneys if they are dilated, But if the kid is now hurt, then it's a problem with blood pressure for sure. So he has to measure his blood pressure. Aortic aneurysm also is related to high blood pressure, low back pain. Otherwise, this guy may has, done extremely heavy lifts. I mean, he has a protrusion of the disc.
Yeah, I mean, it must be hard to figure out, but it's got to be different types of pain because your kidneys are, deeper inside your body than the lumbar spinal muscles. You'd think it wouldn't be that easy to mistake the pain.
To the side of the vertebral column,
Yeah.
And the aorta is in the front of vertebral column. So you have to differentiate between what is and is not, or maybe a lumbar hernia. You have some weak points in the abdomen, in the posterior wall, where is the Christmas tree somewhere close that it can protrude, and you have hernia. And this is a abdominal wall that happens also in the rectus abdominis, on the inguinal canal,
Yeah.
And he has to go either to an internal medicine general pathologist or to an orthopedic surgeon in order to see if it's hernia related, okay? And also check out his blood pressure. This is necessary.
Yeah, I never knew you could get a hernia on the other side, the low back.
Yeah, that's why we use the belt also. It protects also the erector spinae, the lower part of the lower back,
Yeah, well, I knew about herniated discs, but I just never thought of having a hernia on the other side. I always think about over here. Okay, we got a few more. Hey, can increased body fat, low endogenous tests to the low end of the spectrum? So I guess he's asking you, can increased body fat lower your test levels to the low end of the spectrum? If so, can it be mistaken for hypogonadism? So
yes, this is what obesity and metabolic syndrome do. The lower testosterone, because of estradiol, is a negative feedback for the gonadotropin-releasing hormone in the hypothalamus that will in turn elevate LH, that will in turn elevate testosterone. So yes, fat people are not so horny, for instance, and have lower testosterone because they release less of GnRH and LH in the brain, because of the fat tissue that is free in aromatase enzyme. It's a in aromatase enzyme that aromatizes. Okay, that's why we give aromatase inhibitor sometimes or SERMs to elevate estradiol to give a kick in the brain.
So if they lose weight, if somebody is obese and they get to a healthy weight,
you're gonna notice a better evaluation of HPTA. Yes, an improvement.
Okay, cool. Easy enough fix, guy.
These people have insulin resistance that is also related, with erections and blood flow. Everything matters. Diabetic people have poor erections because of the vasculopathy that takes place from insulin resistance in the cavernous bodies of penis.
Yeah. Cavernous, was it cavernosa corporosum?
Yes,
cavernosa?
Corpus cavernosa.
It's the long Latin name. Okay, next question. This is some of these came in at the last minute, but you're being a good sport and you're answering them anyway. We need inflammation to create muscle, or at least so the theory says. But is the fluid accumulation associated with inflammation the same as the fluid accumulation that happens when people do steroids? And do anti-inflammatory agents simply allow us to train more and more frequently? I'd love to be able to train more, even with the same result in muscle gains. Why would you want to train more if you're not going to get any bigger?
Let's make it straight and differentiate.
Okay.
Now, steroids work through aldosterone. They release aldosterone from kidneys, they stimulate aldosterone from kidneys. Aldosterone makes sodium retention, and sodium retention also gives water retention. Okay? And this is how steroids bring water to the muscle, make us puffy. Also, another factor is estradiol and aromatization, but generally all steroids will stimulate aldosterone, will also elevate blood pressure, but will bring this watery environment, and this is what muscle is about. It's about water. 70% of the muscle is water, 90% of the cell is water, the cytoplasm. So yes, bringing water and edema. That's why they tell us to stop training legs 1 week before the show, in order not to have this edema. The edema is a result of blood flow. The blood flow that comes from repetitions, pumping. So this we do not want, or we need 7 days in order to get rid of this extra fluid. But this is not only steroid related. As a matter of fact, before the show, we use all the dry drugs, DHT derivatives, and the ones that do not aromatize, and we still want to avoid 3 days in the top of the body, the training, and 7 days for the legs, in order to get extra rid of this fluid and the edema that comes out of pumping and bringing blood. So these are two different things, okay, that we separated. Now, about the recovery, he mentioned about the recovery.
Yeah.
Using drugs.
He wanted to know, do anti-inflammatory agents allow us to train more and more frequently?
Now, anti-inflammatory agents, if he means about aspirin or non-steroidal inflammatory drugs, this actually, they suppress the muscle inflammation according to William Llewellyn and arachidonic acid theory.
Yeah.
So if we take aspirin post-workout, we're going to be less sore, but soreness is what brings muscle growth, along with sleep, recovery, food, and the supplements, we shouldn't use these anti-inflammatory drugs post-workout, because we need this kind of damage, this inflammation.
What about pre-workout? Because I think a lot of guys use it because of their pain, their joint pain. I know guys will pop like ibuprofen before their training.
Now, if you are extremely, if you are really injured, okay, you have to use it. But you should have in mind that you're hindering your process. It's better to use a paracetamol as a painkiller than an anti-inflammatory drug. Now, the only time you can use aspirin is stack in the morning, for instance. But make sure it has a window of 12 hours, for instance, apart from the post-workout time, so that it does not interfere. So if you take stack pre-workout, 200 milligrams of aspirin, perhaps it will lead to lower muscle inflammation and damage. That's what you need, however, to break down muscle fibers and to stimulate the recovery process.
Yeah.
And Dorian Yates was very fond of this recovery process, okay? Right. Take a rest for 7 days, but you have to be crippled the day after the training, Otherwise, you are wasting your time resting, It has to be so hard in order to need 7 days to do another training season in the same muscle group.
When I trained legs with Dorian back in 2010 in Birmingham, England, it took me 8 days before my legs weren't sore. It took 8 days.
I bet they were a little bit bigger.
They probably were, but man, I couldn't walk, and I had to walk all over the place those first 2 days.
Spirit. Oh, that's the spirit, however.
Oh, it was rough.
Arnold said the same. He was carrying trunks of trees, in the goods, and he said that he had a half an inch greater thigh, measurement.
I don't know if I put on a half inch, but yeah, they must have grown a little bit. Okay, another Trenace question. Wow. Oh no, we already answered that question. Okay, so we're on our last question. We saved the best for last, doctor. Here we go. If a guy accidentally takes too much Arimidex and crashes his estrogen, would taking a shit ton of Dianabol bring it back up sooner? Sounds logical to me, Doc. What would you say?
So take the whole bottle of Arimidex, then take the whole bottle of Dianabol.
That makes sense, right?
Now, I would consider a safer way, because too much of Dianabol will fuck up your liver and your lipids.
Yeah.
And perhaps it will give you acne, and it makes you raise a whole bottle of it.
Yeah.
But using some HCG will elevate testosterone, because by crashing on estrogens, by overdosing on Arimidex, will also make you feel shitty about your libido. So maybe use a little bit of HCG will be less, of course, will be more effective, but also no stress on liver, on the lipids like Dianabol.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about Dianabol doses before, but at what point for a normal, let's say 200 to 220 pound bodybuilder, what dose of Dianabol daily would you say is starting to get dangerous?
close to 100.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I
Now,
don't.
Dan Duchaine said something very good in his handbook. He was a pioneer. And he said dianabol or oxymethylone or winstrol or anavar or whatever these toxic pills, they're not dangerous, they're not lethal, even OD. But taking, for instance, IV potassium can kill you in a heartbeat, or taking the whole bottle of Xanax will kill you because of suppression in respiratory center. Therefore, in the bottom line, steroids are not lethal in the short term.
Yeah.
Unlike other drugs that are barbiturates, for instance, or potassium, which may kill you in a heartbeat. That's why too much of aldactone may kill you. Wow. So yes, you can take the whole bottle of it, but it won't give you something super crazy that upsets you, okay? And maybe you have kind of aggression, maybe you're breaking out from acne, but maybe you have a little bit of pinching in your liver on the right side, but nothing else, you know? Unlike if you, for instance, if you take 6 grams or 5 grams of ibuprofen, paracetamol,
Yeah.
you can have a liver failure.
Wow.
Necrosis, yes, death.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I believe that's in the USA. That's the #1 drug people come into emergency rooms because of is ibuprofen.
Some of them want to commit suicide and they take for liver failure. This yes.
Yeah.
But so you find that ordinary drugs can kill you much easier than steroids.
Sure.
Actually, steroids do have side effects, but in the long term, like smoking, for instance,
right.
Or like alcohol.
I mean, I don't want people to think they're safe, because most steroid users do take these drugs over a very long term, years and even decades.
Yes. There was a yesterday I had a lecture about steroids online, and we have a catalog that shows what are the most harsh compounds. Now, #1, I think it's smoking, then it's alcohol, and there are narcotics. Why? Because they are highly abused on a daily basis. Unlike steroids were a little bit lower than the middle. Why? Because steroids, you use them occasionally for enhancing purposes. And of course, they're not a part of a daily lifestyle, okay? So you're on, you're off. You may also use them safer. But because of smoking, drinking, and using marijuana or cocaine on a daily basis, these may become progressively more dangerous, you know?
Quick question, doctor. In Greece, do a lot of people still smoke cigarettes?
Yes, a lot. Greece and Turkey and Cyprus, yes. We're champions in smoking. And women, this is the sad thing, women more progressively. That's why they develop bronchitis, asthma, and also cancer, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, when I was a kid back in the 70s, everybody smoked, and now you rarely see people smoking. It's $10 a pack, for one thing.
You remember in the movies in the 70s and the 80s was very in front of smoking in the movies, huh?
Every TV show. TV show, every movie, all the characters were smoking constantly.
The sad thing is about using steroids alongside. So I advise them, if you want to use steroids, cut smoking during the cycle, because you flirt with platelet aggregation, lowering HDL, increasing fibrinogen. So you flirt with clotting. You know, you elevate more your hematocrit because of CO. So yeah, it's not otherwise there. Besides that, an athlete hinders his gains because he introduces carbon monoxide in his lungs, and the airway and the exchange of oxygen CO2 is not so effective, you know. So it's like breathing in a gas exchange, you know.
Yeah.
It's not so smart for an athlete, you know.
It's like locking yourself in the garage with your car running. Yeah.
Yes.
Just how a lot of people kill themselves as well. So, okay. Well, geez, Doc, you've been so generous. 12 questions, guys. Keep the questions coming. Again, somebody asked where we can leave questions. They must not be watching the video, because every video, I say this at the end. Right here in the YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave your questions in the comments. The doctor's great. He was adding questions.
On the forum, yeah. On the
And
forum
also on the forum. Yeah, I also want you guys to check out musculardevelopment.com. We have the No Bull forum. I have a thread up there that I leave all the time called Questions for Dr. T. That's also where you can see the doctor's article, A Bulking Cycle of the Pros, that just went up a couple days ago. That's posted up there. And a couple days from now, we're going to put up his other article, Cutting Cycles of the Pros. So you can see what are these pros doing as far as drugs, which drugs. how often they use them, how they transition different drugs during the cycle, doses, all kinds of information in there for you to check out. Really good stuff. Also want to encourage you guys to pick up the doctor's book. A lot of good basic information on all the steroids and other drugs as they're used in bodybuilding. Just a good way to educate yourself. If you're thinking about using steroids, or even if you're already using them, you want to be educated. You want to know what you're doing. Otherwise, you might be doing a lot of damage and not even realize it. But, luckily, when you have concerns, Dr. Tuliatos is here and he's been helping you and he will continue to help you. Thank you so much for that, doctor.
The upcoming MD issue will enclose the diuretics.
Okay, so that should be out very shortly. Yeah, that's coming out in about a week and a half or so, I believe, that November issue. Yeah, cool. Well, Dr. Tuliatos, thank you so much for all your expertise and information, sharing it with the people around the world who need it the most. And that's it, guys. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so you know when we do these. We typically do these every Monday and get them up either Monday or Tuesday. So, all right. Doctor, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And keep the questions coming, guys, and we'll talk to you next time.